Welcome, dear friends and enthusiasts of legendary tales from everywhere. Are you ready to dive into a journey that transcends the boundaries of reality? A journey where we blend the tears of love with the heat of fire and the harshness of mountains with the tenderness of hearts? Today, we have a story unlike any other, an epic of The Princess and the Poor Cook, a story that will teach us that jewels do not make kings, and that the purest hearts can hide behind worn-out clothes. Sit back, relax, and don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell to be part of our family. And leave us in the comments from which country you are following us today. And do you believe that love works miracles? Let's begin. In a distant time, where mountains embraced the clouds and rivers told the tales of ancestors, the kingdom of Sapphire sat atop a green hill, overlooking a deep valley. The kingdom was a marvel of beauty, its palaces built of polished white stone that reflected sunlight like a giant mirror, and its markets bustled with colors and aromas. But behind these high walls, there was another life, a life governed by strict laws and unforgiving class distinctions. At the highest tower of the royal palace stood Princess Laura. Laura was not merely a princess of extraordinary beauty, with her golden hair flowing like cascades of light and eyes the color of the clear sky, but a free spirit imprisoned in a royal body. She looked from her high balcony not to see the beauty of her kingdom, but to search for something she missed within the cold palace walls. She was searching for real life. Although she had everything she desired, her heart felt a desolate void, a void that jewels or silk dresses could not fill. She hated royal protocols and the fake smiles of nobles who came to propose to her out of greed for the throne, not love for her. She found her only solace in secretly escaping to the old palace library, or sometimes sneaking into the back kitchen garden to smell the fresh herbs, where she felt like an ordinary human, not a golden statue. In complete contrast, downstairs, in the royal kitchen's dimly lit corridors where the midday sun never reached, lived Adam, a young man in the prime of his life, dressed in simple clothes, exuding the scent of thyme and cardamom, with rough hands from hard work, yet possessing a special magic when touching dough or stirring pots. Adam was an orphan, raised in the poor alleys of the village before his exceptional talent for cooking drew him through the palace. Adam didn't just cook for people to eat. He cooked to tell stories. He blended spices as if writing poetry, believing that a warm, heartfelt meal could melt the hardest of hearts. Despite his dire poverty, he possessed a heart richer than the king's coffers and eyes sparkling with hope and ambition, dreaming of a day when the world would see beyond his pots and stoves. His life was a series of arduous tasks that began before sunrise and ended after sunset, yet he sang while chopping vegetables, confident that fate held something different for him, something that would change the course of his life and the entire kingdom. The threads of fate began to intertwine on a stormy winter night, when the king was hosting a grand feast to celebrate the kingdom's founding anniversary. The grand hall was buzzing with guests, and the tables groaned under the weight of luxurious dishes. But Princess Laura sat beside her father, the king, distracted, playing with her food out of boredom. That night, the head chef decided to give Adam a chance to prepare the special dessert for the princess as a sarcastic challenge, believing the young man would fail. But Adam, with all his love, made a simple honey and lemon cake, decorating it with rare wildflower petals he collected from the mountain. When Laura tasted the first piece, time stopped. It wasn't just a taste, it was a melody, a warm memory, a feeling of freedom and open fields that swept over her senses. She immediately requested to meet the one who made this dish. The guards were flustered, and the head chef stammered, but eventually they brought Adam, in his humble clothes and with his head bowed in respect. When Laura raised her eyes to see him, she didn't see a poor cook, but saw in his eyes the sparkle she had been searching for her entire life. She asked him in a calm voice, yet filled with intense curiosity, "What is the secret of this dish?" Adam replied in a steady, unpretentious voice. "No secret, my lady, except that I cook with my heart, not my hands, and I put in it my dream of the freedom you long for." That sentence was enough to ignite an unquenchable spark. Since that night, everything changed. Laura began to sneak out under the pretext of checking on palace affairs to meet Adam in the back garden near the storehouses. There, away from prying eyes, she was not a princess, and he was just a dreamy young man. Adam told her about his adventures in the mountains searching for herbs, about the lives of ordinary people, and about the happiness found in a warm loaf of bread shared among family. And Laura told her about her loneliness, about her golden cage, and about her dreams of seeing the sea. Innocent and deep feelings grew between them, a pure love that transcended differences and classes. Adam taught her the names of the stars that the poor see more clearly than kings, and she taught him to read and write so he could record his recipes. But, as in every great love story, happiness does not come easily. There were eyes watching them in the dark, the eyes of Vizier Malik, the cunning royal advisor who was planning to marry Laura to seize control of the throne. Malik was a cold man, his heart like a solid rock, seeing people only as tools to achieve his ambitions. Malik noticed the princess's changed behavior and traced her steps until he uncovered the secret of her meetings with the cook. On a fateful morning, as Laura was laughing at a joke Adam made while showing her a rare flower, the guards, led by Vizier Malik, stormed the garden. Laura screamed, and Adam tried to shield her with his slender body, but numbers overwhelmed courage. Adam was violently dragged and thrown before the king in the throne room, where Vizier Malik accused him of treason, attempting to poison the princess's mind, and stealing palace treasures. The king was enraged, not only because a cook dared to look at his daughter, but because he felt the prestige of the crown had been violated. Laura tried to defend him, weeping and pleading with her father, saying, "He stole nothing, father. He only taught me how to smile genuinely." But the vizier's words were like poison in the king's ear. The king decided to execute Adam to make an example of him. At this point, Laura took a courageous stand no one had ever seen from her, threatening to end her life if Adam was harmed. Faced with his only daughter's insistence and the intervention of some wise men, the king decided to change the sentence to impossible exile. The king said in a voice that shook the hall, "O cook, if you claim you deserve my daughter, you must bring me what no one else has. It is said that at the peak of Black Cloud Mountain, there is the flower of life's antidote, a flower that cures all ills and grants immortality, guarded by a beast from which no one has returned alive. Bring me that flower, and I will consider your matter. If you do not return, you will have condemned yourself to death." Black Cloud Mountain was a terrifying legend, a place armed knights dared not approach. So what of a cook with only a kitchen knife and a bag of spices? Adam looked at Laura, whose tears streamed silently, and gave her a broken smile, yet full of promise, saying, "I will return, my lady, not for the flower, but to prove to your father that love is stronger than death." Adam left the palace, leaving his heart and soul behind, and walked towards the unknown. The journey was hell from the beginning. Adam crossed dense forests where trees intertwined like the arms of demons trying to hinder him, and faced snowstorms that froze his limbs until he almost lost sensation. On dark nights, he lit a small fire and conjured Laura's image in his mind for warmth. He didn't have a sword to fight wolves, but he had his intelligence. He used hot spices to ward off predators, and his knowledge of plants to heal his wounds and as an antidote for poisons that nearly killed him. As weeks passed, Adam's smooth skin turned into rough, sun and wind-beaten hide, and his muscles grew stronger from climbing rocks. Meanwhile, in the palace, Laura lived in solitary confinement imposed by her father, refusing food and drink, praying every night for Adam's return. Vizier Malik exploited Adam's absence and began to pressure the king to expedite his marriage to Laura, claiming the kingdom needed stability and that the girl had gone mad because of the spell the cook had cast upon her. The king began to weaken under the vizier's pressure and set the wedding date after the second full moon. Adam finally reached the foot of Black Cloud Mountain, and there the real confrontation began. The mountain was not just rocks, but was haunted by an ancient, angry spirit. Rocks fell like rain, and winds howled with human voices. Adam climbed with great difficulty until he reached the summit, where he found the coveted cave. Inside, the beast was lurking. It was not a dragon, as the legend said, but a gigantic griffin, with the body of a lion and the head of an eagle and eyes spitting fire. Around it grew the single flower, the flower of life's antidote, shimmering with a magical blue light. The beast attacked Adam, almost tearing him apart with its sharp claws. Adam rolled and miraculously dodged the blow, but he realized he wouldn't win by force. Adam remembered his grandmother's old words, "Beasts are not tamed by the sword, but by what breaks their hunger and anger." Adam pulled out the last thing he had in his bag, a piece of dried meat seasoned with a secret blend of soothing herbs that grew in the valley. Instead of attacking, he cautiously threw the piece to the beast. The beast stopped, sniffed the aroma that tickled its animal senses, and devoured it. The beast looked at Adam with a different gaze, the gaze of a hungry creature who had found someone who understood it. Adam slowly approached, extending his hand, not to take the flower, but to stroke the beast's head. In that rare moment, the beast realized that this human carried no greed, but carried pain and love. The beast allowed him to pick the flower, and even carried him on its back down the rugged peak, in a scene that embodies how purity can tame savagery. Adam returned, running, walking, and crawling, racing against time. He reached the outskirts of the kingdom on the promised wedding night. The kingdom was decorated with flags, but the faces were sad, for the people loved the princess and knew of her sorrow. Adam, in his torn clothes and bleeding wounds, sneaked through the back gates he knew well. In the grand hall, Laura stood in a wedding dress that looked like a shroud, and Vizier Malik held her hand with a greasy smile of triumph. The priest was about to announce the marriage when the huge doors burst open, slamming against the walls, and Adam entered, limping but with his head held high, holding the luminous flower that lit the hall with its blue glow. The attendees gasped, and the vizier stepped back in shock. "He's back," everyone whispered. Adam advanced towards the king, who sat stunned on his throne, threw the flower at his feet, and said in a hoarse but strong voice, "I have fulfilled my promise, my lord. I brought you life from the heart of death, not because I want your throne, but because your daughter deserves a man who faces hell for her smile, not a man who steals her happiness to increase his influence." Vizier Malik went mad, shouting at the guards, "Arrest him! This is a charlatan! This is a poisonous flower!" The guards tried to move, but Laura ran and threw herself into Adam's arms, oblivious to his dirty clothes. At that moment, the vizier's mask fell, as he pulled out a poisoned dagger he had hidden and tried to stab Adam from behind. But Adam, with senses sharpened by the wilderness, turned and parried the blow with a nearby silver tray, engaging in a struggle with the vizier. It was an uneven fight between a trained minister and an exhausted cook, but justice was with Adam. As they struggled, a small vial fell from the vizier's pocket, broke, and released poisonous vapor. Everyone immediately knew that the vizier had been planning to poison the king immediately after the marriage to seize power. The king ordered the guards to arrest the traitor Malik, who was dragged ignominiously out of the hall amidst the curses of the attendees. The king stood before Adam, looked at the flower, and then at his daughter, whose face had come back to life as she held the cook's hand. The king descended from his throne in a historic precedent and placed his hand on Adam's shoulder, saying, I was looking for a prince for my daughter, and you brought me a king in a cook's clothes. You have taught me a lesson today that I will never forget, that nobility is not in blood, but in action." The kingdom celebrated for days and nights, not with a cold political marriage, but with a true love marriage. Adam did not wear golden crowns, but remained as he was, simple and humble. And Laura sometimes joined him in the kitchen, cooking together for the people on holidays. As for the magical flower, the king did not use it for himself, but ordered it to be planted in the public castle garden to be a symbol of healing and hope for all who looked at it. And they lived happily, not because life was free of problems, but because they realized that the greatest treasure in existence is not gold and sapphires, but finding a soul that sees the world in you, even when you possess nothing of it. And so, my friends, our journey in the kingdom of sapphire ends, a story that always reminds us that true love knows no impossible, and that courage is born from the womb of fear. Adam did not have a sword, but he possessed a brave heart. And Laura did not choose status, but chose sincerity. What do you think of the king's action in the end? And would you risk your life for those you love, as Adam did? Share your opinions in the comments, and don't forget to share the story with those you love. May you be safe in God's care, and see you in a new story and another adventure. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you.